Detroit has to be one of the most significant music capitals in the world. They're home to the timeless Motown soul sound. They are accredited for birthing techno, a movement that was pioneered by Juan Atkins and the Belleville 3. They have a distinct hip-hop culture with artists such as Eminem, Danny Brown, Big Sean, and producer Jay Dilla. They are also one of the drivers of the garage rock genre all the way back in the 60s and 70s with bands such as MC5 and the Stooges, and even more recently with the relatively modern revival of that genre thanks to Jack White and the White Stripes. And in this video, I would like to highlight with you 3 quintessential record shops that I had the honor of visiting during my visit to Detroit that encapsulate this overall Detroit sound. They each have their own unique flair to them, and I believe they house some of the best music out there today. So with that, let's get started. I first want to highlight my visit to the Motown Museum, which is not a record store in particular, but an absolute must visit for any music lover out there. It was at this museum where Berry Gordy founded the Motown record label, where the majority of the music back in the day was recorded, specifically housing the iconic Studio A. And after attending the tour, which took about an hour or so, I now have a more deep understanding of the origins of the label, the genre of soul in general. The albums you see behind me, I'm now listening with new ears. So if you are planning to visit Detroit, definitely add that on your bucket list, and I promise you, you will not regret it. So the first record shop I would like to highlight with you is People's Records, located in central Detroit. When I was looking for a record shop that had a wide collection of Motown sound, People's Records often came up. They have a decent size, and at the front of the shop is the soul music, not just Motown, but soul in general. And what they're known for is their wide collection of 45s. So on the wall, you'll see some shelves with the various genres of singles, probably the largest collection of 45s that I've ever seen. So if you are a DJ, producer, or just want to collect some singles, that is a place to do it. I believe all of the records are used, so you will get some good bang for your buck if you are okay with maybe not the best condition, but they do have a lot of good stuff for any kind of music lover. They have a pretty solid jazz selection, a decent sized electronic section as well, and you can of course sample the music with their turntables that they have at the back. The second record shop I encourage you to visit is Third Man Records, started by Jack White himself. Now this is not the original, the first one is actually in Nashville, but it is located in the birthplace of Jack White himself. Now, this label is relatively modern, so you can find pretty much every White Stripes album there, every Jack White album or EP, but they do also sign other artists, some less known than others. But what I love about this record shop is that it's not just a shop, but also the printing factory. So all the way at the back, you can see the whole process of how they print records. And I think that's a very eye-opening experience if you haven't seen it before. I also like how spacious the layout is. They have a stage in the center where they host some live performances, I believe some of which you can buy vinyl copies of in the store. The part I love the most was the intimate listening booth, where there's a little collection of records you can already sample. And if something is open, I believe you can listen to it there. But it's such a great experience just to walk around. You can shop for memorabilia. If you're a Jack White or the White Stripes fan, that's obviously a must visit. It's a great place to visit if you want to see the origins of vinyl all the way to it being pressed and sold to the consumer. And the final record shop I'd like to highlight is Dearborn Records. Now, this record shop isn't located in central Detroit. It was rather close to where my brother currently lives. Dearborn offers such a wide selection of music, not just records, but also a good selection of CDs and some memorabilia as well. So pretty much any genre or artist you're looking for, they've probably got it. They've been around for a while and quite iconic in the area. So if you're just looking for a generic kind of record shop that is likely to have the album you're looking for, it's definitely worth the trip if you are planning to stay within Detroit. It's not that far of a drive, but you can definitely spend hours there, and I could highly recommend it. So now that you've saved these record shops on your Google Maps lists, I'd like to highlight with you a few of the records that I came home with and where I got them from. So at the end of the Motown Museum tour, I started to learn a little bit more about the Temptations and why they were so iconic. So the record I came home with was Reunion, which is a compilation of tracks that they performed throughout their reunion tour. This tour in general was quite iconic because it was the first time that they all got together since the departure of David Ruffin, the lead vocalist on My Girl, one of the most popular singles. He unfortunately became a cocaine addict, so to get him on board was quite the feat, as well as the return of Eddie Kendricks, the lead vocalist on Get Ready. The executive producer of this album was actually Berry Gordy himself, so this has Motown written all over it. This album doesn't have their biggest singles, so I actually discovered a few new tracks from them on this record. So if you want to discover more Temptations music, this is the record to get. So at People's Records, I was on the hunt for that Motown soul sound, and the first record I got was Fulfillingness First Finale by the legend himself, Stevie Wonder. Now, as you see behind me, I got Songs in the Key of Life. I got a few other classic Stevie albums, and this is one I am personally missing. This album in particular was the follow-up to his widely successful Inner Visions, part of his so-called classic era. This also won Grammy Album of the Year. It's an album that is rather introspective, following up a near fatal car crash, so you get to hop into the mind of Stevie during this intimate and vulnerable period of his life. What's unique about this album within Stevie's discography is the innovative use of synth funk with rich harmonies. Of course, you have some soulful ballads, and you do even get a bit of gospel influence on tracks like They Won't Go When I Go. This record is a gatefold that I got for a pretty decent price. You have the lyrics on the inside, and this one was released by Tamla, which is a record label that belongs to Motown. A few tracks I can highly recommend are You Haven't Done Nothing, a funky social commentary with backing vocals from the Jackson 5. An underrated song in my opinion is Creepin', which has backing vocals from Minnie Riperton, and the track I mentioned before, They Won't Go When I Go. Now, while Motown was known for their soul sound, they did in fact bring in a rock band, in this case a white rock band. They go by the name of Rare Earth, which is the first rock band that was signed to the Motown record label. They even started a record label called Rare Earth to kind of branch out into different genres. And so the first record I got from them was Get Ready, featuring the cover of the Temptations song Get Ready. This song is fantastic. They make it their own. Takes up the whole side of side 2. It is 20 minutes long, so definitely listen to that one if you do get this record. There's excellent guitar work, a powerful drum solo towards the end, leading to the final chorus. So this version is not in the greatest condition, but I got it for a really cheap price of a few bucks. So this was the only copy that they had available. So this is the design of that Rare Earth record label, I believe, quite distinct from the other Motown sub-labels. So if you are currently more into soul and want to transition into a rock band, this is the perfect recommendation because they do get inspiration from iconic soul artists and bands and add their own rock twist to a lot of their songs while offering their own distinct sound. Another record I got from Rare Earth is Ecology. On Spotify, a few of the songs are missing, so if you do want to hear the full album, you might want to check another source or grab the album yourself. This one I also got for a pretty sweet deal as well. The reason why I picked this one up was because as I was listening to it, I realized that Kanye's song Fade has a sample from this album, which comes from the cover of I Know I'm Losing You. Similar to Get Ready, this features powerful guitar work and drum work and is also a great representation of Rare Earth. So definitely add this to your collection if you are a Rare Earth fan or simply a rock or soul fan in general. Again, here you have the Rare Earth branding. Nothing too special about the packaging itself, but it's quite an affordable purchase, so I definitely wanted to get my hands on this one. Moving on to Third Man Records. Now, surprise, surprise, I came home with some Jack White and White Stripes. Now, prior to this visit, my brother so kindly got the 20th anniversary of Elephant for me from this record shop, and so to follow up with that, I got White Blood Cells, also one of their best albums. This record was recorded in 3 days to kind of capture that intense feeling that they were feeling at the time. This is actually their first album mastered in a studio, and the album where they transitioned from more of the blues rock to more of a garage rock kind of sound that they were known for. And on top of that, this also follows their divorce. So there are themes of love and betrayal that are on this record, but despite that, it's very cohesive and powerful front to back. I got my hands on the 2021 reissue, so nothing in particular that stands out in terms of the packaging and record itself, but it's a nice clean copy if you don't have it in your collection already. I just realized on the sticker here it says, "Forget the hype, listen to these songs" by The Atlantic, and I'm wondering how big they were at the time because I wasn't listening to them when they were popular, but I imagine that they just revolutionized the scene when they started to become more mainstream. So yeah, with this album, forget the hype and just listen to the songs. I also came home with a 45 RPM record featuring the songs Love Interruption and Machine Gun Silhouette. I was first drawn to the cover. I'm a huge fan of anything black and white, and then after listening to the songs, I decided to just grab it for myself. So this one actually just folds out like that and then comes with the Third Man Records label on there. But I wanted to get something that was a bit different to what I'm used to when it comes to the White Stripes or Jack White, so this is what I ended up with. And finally, the records I came home with from Dearborn Records are two very, very special records in my opinion. Classic records, iconic in their own right, both of which are not Motown or Detroit based artists. First one is Jazz Samba by Stan Getz and Charlie Bird, both legends in the jazz scene. If you are familiar with the Getz Gilberto album, one of the most popular jazz and bossa nova albums, you will surely love this one. And I'm surprised I didn't know about it earlier because in many ways this one might be up to par with the Getz Gilberto album. This was actually released before that album, so this was the album that is credited for bringing that bossa nova sound to the US, combining jazz and Brazilian sounds together. You have Stan Getz on the tenor sax and Charlie Bird on the guitar, both of whom are well known for their particular instruments. This album was actually also composed mostly by Brazilians, so this is a great representation of Brazil despite being performed primarily by American artists. But if you do love jazz, if you do love bossa nova, this is an absolute must-have. The gatefold opens up and tells you a little bit about the creation of the album with some nice black and white images of their performances. The record was released by Verve Records. So yeah, if you do want some good jazz, some good bossa nova, definitely get your hands on this record. And the final record I'd like to highlight with you today comes from the legend himself, Miles Davis, this one being the In Concert album. Now, what's funny about this record was that when I was looking around, I noticed that it was a Miles Davis record. I gave it a little bit of a listen, was a big fan of it, saw that the price was $29.99, which I think is fair, but then on the back, they had their original price of $9.99, so I went up to the desk and was like, hey, if the old sticker is there, is it possible for you to give me maybe a lower price? And so we kind of negotiated it, and I ended up taking it home for I think like 15 or 16 bucks. So shout out to the customer service at Dearborn Records for being so accommodating. The record itself isn't in the greatest shape, but it's definitely a well-loved record featuring a bit of a cartoony theme as well as on the inside. What's also special about this record is that this is the first record that I've owned that came with these like promotional strips. So I believe this record was given to a radio station to play, and these were the strips that were given to give them an idea of how long each track was so they could play it in a timely manner on the radio station. So I thought that's pretty cool. This is my first time seeing one of these. So here it says like not for resale. I'm not sure what that means, but I don't know if this adds value to the record, but I thought this was quite unique. It's a double LP, so you have a couple sleeves with the records. There it is, released by Columbia Records. This record itself is a bit experimental, featuring the electronic wah-wah machine or distorter that Miles Davis used during this performance. So if you are used to the kind of blue kind of jazz, this is a bit far away from that, but a great listen nonetheless. So that wraps up my visit to Detroit and their iconic record shops, as well as a little bit of a record haul. If you did find value in this video, I would appreciate a like, subscribe if you want to see more content. I'm also on Instagram and TikTok if you want some more bite-sized content. And as always, I like to end my videos by reminding you to slow down, take a sip, and drop the needle. See you in the next one. Peace.